That's why it's our job to understand stuff like that. The GSEs don't care about a value. They care about risk.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Justin Harris.
And welcome back to the program, everybody. Justin Harris hanging out once again in the podcast chair. I want to welcome you to the program. Remind you that we are sponsored by A La Mode Software. A La Mode, of course, is the software that I am using daily. Used it just this morning to hook up a new appraiser to mobile. What a great tool to be able to gather all the information that you need in the field. Total is the one that allows you to do that, and many more things. Check them out by going to alamode.com, or you can call them at 800-ALA-MODE. Technology to make your life easier. How about saving yourself about 40 minutes roughly on every report? 40 minutes, folks. Imagine what you can do with that new time, because DataMaster does it with a punch of a button. It's datamasterusa.com. One more time, go to datamasterusa.com. And finally, we're sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP, of course, is the E&O that I have used for a long time. When people reach out to me and say, Dustin, what do you suggest? I always tell them OREP. The reason is they've got my back on more than one occasion. I've relied upon them. They have helped me in sticky situations. Not only that, but the great benefits that come with OREP. You need to check them out. Go to orep.org. It's orep.org. Well, folks, I want to welcome back to the program one of my good friends and amazing man, very smart, always the smartest guy in the room, Mr. Tim Andersen. Welcome back.
Justin, thank you. I appreciate the invitation. How are you today? I'm
good, my friend. I'm raring to go. It's a new week. We're recording this on a Monday, and it's a beautiful outlook, a beautiful time of the year, by the way. I love this time of the year in Idaho, and colors changing. I'm out in the field a lot, and it's beautiful. How are things in Florida, my friend?
Well, the colors are constant rain, Dustin. They are all year long.
I lived in California for a couple of years, and everybody said, "Isn't the weather great?" And I thought to myself, I never said it out loud. I didn't want to offend anybody, but I thought, no, there's only one season here, or maybe two. Maybe it's hot and rainy. But I do love the four seasons when it comes to Idaho. So I love where I live. Although in February, ask me again. Okay. All right. Well, today, Tim, as we do on a regular basis, we call this the Dear USPAP Instructor episode, and this is where we typically take questions from the audience. These are questions that have to do with USPAP or have to do with the proper methodologies when approaching an appraisal question, appraisal problem. Today, we're going to deviate a little bit from that, Tim, and instead of taking questions from the audience, now I think both you and I have both received multiple questions surrounding the two topics today, but we're not going to take any particular question. We're rather just going to talk about some changes in the industry. And Tim, if that's okay with you, I want to start right now with California. Tell me what's going on recently in California, specifically with the Bureau of Real Estate Appraisers there in California.
Dustin, thank you. A new law passed recently in California, and effectively January 1st of next year, 2022, on the state complaint form, there will be a box the complainant can check, in which the complainant will have the opportunity to indicate if the complainant feels that the appraiser came in below market value. Now, how the complainant will have even the most vague of clues as to whether the appraiser came in below market value is utterly beyond my small and strained ability to comprehend. But yet that opportunity will be there. Now, obviously, the state of California is engineering that, not so much that it cares that you came in below market value, because that's an opinion. The state of California is engineering this. So the state of California can accuse the appraiser of bias and or discrimination simply by coming in below market value, even though the complainant, or for that matter, the state of California, has no clue what market value is. Now, what's going to happen to that poor, honest, innocent appraiser who is given an assignment 6 months after the market changes? But yet the broker, in order to get the listing, is going to tell the homeowner that the property is worth what it was 6 months ago. Well, the appraiser is going to come in, the poor, innocent, misinformed, walking dead appraiser is going to come in and appraise the property for its market value, which is lower than it was 6 months ago because the market has changed. Right. But yet all the homeowner has to do is click, yeah, the damn appraiser came in below market value. And that appraiser's life is going to change, and not for the rosy, not for the better, not for the sunshiny, for the next 6 to 18 months. Well, this thing works its way through the gauntlet of the BREA. And this is, of course, patently unfair. And you're going to hear about it from your clients. I'm going to hear about it from my clients. We're going to be recommending attorneys to handle it. The attorneys are going to get rich from it. But yet it's not going to protect the good folks of the state of California from anything. It's not going to help lenders in the least. It's not going to help homeowners in any way whatsoever. And it's just going to clog up the Bureau's already gummed up bureaucracy with frivolous, ridiculous, and baseless complaints. So as you can tell, I'm not really a fan of what the state of California is doing. I don't understand why they even consider it to be necessary. I don't understand what it's going to prove other than very possibly removing a qualified and talented appraisers from the pool of available appraisers, which all of our friends, the lenders, are claiming is too small to begin with. So again, to this small mind, this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And indeed, I find utterly indefensible. But then that's my opinion. And one is welcome to my opinion, because that and $2 will buy him a Coke someplace.
All right, so let's break this down, Tim. And you did an excellent job setting this up. But just to be very, very clear, in case somebody was taking a comp photo when you explained it and didn't quite meet understand your definition, you're saying, tell us what's changed here, because you've always been able to make a complaint to the no matter what state board it is, and let's just use California because that's what's on the table. You've always, whether you're a homeowner, a realtor, an innocent bystander, you've always been able to make a complaint and say, I think the appraiser is a scumbag, and here's why. How is this different than what has been done in the past?
Dustin, thank you. In the beginning, it isn't going to be any different. But what's going to happen is our good friends at the Department of Justice, Department of Justice, federal government, will do an investigation and say, oh, look, of the 1,000 complaints that came in last year to the state of California, over 80% of them, and I'm making that up, but over 80% of them, in over 80% of them, the appraiser came in below market value. No, that's not true. In 80% of them, the complainant opined with no support whatsoever that the appraiser came in below market value. So as a result, appraisers and appraising is going to be investigated, which it already is. Right. Even more scrupulously, if that's the right adverb, than is true now, but yet to no purpose, Dustin. It is not going to make appraisers better. It is not going to protect borrowers from the evils of cretinous appraisers. All it is going to do is make it easier for the government to come after us. And well, obviously, we are and should be subject to sanction for the mistakes that we make. I don't see any reason why the government has to manufacture errors with which we have absolutely nothing to do. It's simply the borrower or the homeowner or the Uber driver who happened to pass the house is going to file a complaint. The appraiser came in below market value. And somebody's going to say, well, okay, what was the market value? I don't know. The form was just on the box. I checked it. Right. Well, so, and I think that's the thing. It's like so basically the California Bureau of Real Estate Appraisers has basically changed the complaint form. So it's just as easy as as giving a 3-star review on Google as marking a box to say that the appraiser came in below market value here. And I don't know if you know the answer to this, Tim, but is there a box to say that the appraiser came in over market value? And I'm not being silly in that question. Of course not. That would be fair. Right. That would be equitable. All right. And that's not what we're dealing. We are not dealing with an entity, either the state BREA or the Department of Justice, that is our friend. We are dealing with those who, I don't want to say enemies because I don't know that, but certainly do not have our best interest in mind, or for that matter, the consumer's best interest in mind. And raising the issue of consumers raises the issue of why is someone who is not privy to the contract between the appraiser and the appraiser's client, the lender, able to raise this issue? Mm-hmm. That is just stupid. In fact, it would have to increase in importance merely to ascend to the level of stupidity. It's asininity. But yet that has passed. I mean, the legislature's done it. It's a done deal. As we record this, it is not the law yet. But by the time this program reaches the air, it will not be that far from the law.
Right.
And as of January 1st, 2022, unless something incredibly unforeseen happens, it is going to be the law. And Dustin, I believe that within 3 weeks, but by the time or before January 2022 is out, we are going to see these complaints start to roll in. And not to put too much of the blame on our friends, the realtors, but you can betcha that they're going to counsel their sellers to check that box, just because it's going to be a pain in our collective tuckuses, and we're going to have to overcome it. Now, I don't know how the E&O people are going to handle this. I don't know what they're going to do. I've not asked any of them. But I'm sure that they're not looking forward to the prospect, because that could mean they're going to be writing more checks. And if they're going to write more checks as appraisers begin to renew, especially appraisers in California, begin to renew their insurance policies, either their deductible is going to be bigger, their scope of coverage is going to be smaller, or their premiums are going to increase. I don't see how it can be any other way. And I would love to be proven wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And that really was to my next question. You answered it partly. My next question was going to be, so what? What does this mean for appraisers? What should we be doing anything any different? Is this just an FYI? What can we see on the horizon other than maybe an increase in complaints, maybe an increase in fees when it comes to E&O? Any other sage advice, Tim, that we appraisers need to? And when I say we appraisers, I don't appraise in the state of California. Hallelujah. But as they say, so goes as goes California, so goes the nation. It's probably a matter of time before we see similar things in similar states. What's an appraiser to do, Tim?
Dustin, at this point, among the few appraisers with whom I have considered this issue, basically all we're saying is protect. And what that means is, instead of having 25 pages of stuff in your work file, maybe you're going to need 75 pages of stuff in your work file to prove what it is you did or did not do. But an appraiser's opinion of market value is going to have to go from maybe plus or minus 15% to probably plus or minus less than 5%. And we're going to have to spend a lot more time when we're quote unquote done explaining what it is we did, how we did it, and why we did it. So after January 1st, 2022, at least in the state of California, the status quo of appraisal reports really is going to have to change. Otherwise, appraisers are going to have to get out of the GSE appraisal business because it is just going to become too difficult. And Dustin and I wouldn't be surprised if that were part of the agenda of the state of California.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the purpose of that? There's probably no probably in the fact that there isn't a bias and a built-in agenda there for sure. I mean, it increases the amount of work on their side, but it also it probably gets them closer to where they're going with all of this for sure. Unfortunately. Tim, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. I want to pause here, folks, to remind you that we're sponsored by three great companies. Tim, of course, talked about E&O and the importance of having E&O. It's not just a requirement from your AMCs, folks. It's a good idea to make sure that you're covered, make sure that you have some backing, because let's face it, there's no such thing as a perfect appraisal. And even if it were perfect in your mind, it may not be perfect in someone else's mind. You need a company that will stand behind you and that will go to bat when you need someone to go to bat for you. And I'll tell you, folks, that company, in my opinion, is OREP. OREP is the company that I highly recommend that you take a peek at, take a look at, try out. Remember, I switched from another company years ago, and it was not easy to do, meaning not that OREP made it hard to get in. It was only hard in my mind that I would have to change from a different company to a new company. And I did it, and I'm glad I did it. The benefits have been absolutely wonderful and amazing, and they will be for you as well. Check them out. Go to orep.org. That's OREP.org. We're sponsored, of course, by Alamode. Alamode being the software that I use daily. I mentioned at the start of the program that I set up a new appraiser this morning on the mobile app. It was as easy as he getting on his app, hitting a button, giving me a code. I put it into the computer, and bam, all of the reports that he needed for the day to be out and about and gather the information was there. Alamode makes it simple, folks. I'll tell you, it is such an amazing thing to go out in the field and come back with everything that you need from the inspection. Check them out. Go to alamode.com, or you can pick up the phone and call them at 800-ALAMODE. Finally, we're sponsored by a great company helping appraisers to save time. How does it do it? Folks, imagine all of the data entry that you put in when it comes to I don't know, the tax records, the owner name, the assessor parcel number, the legal description, the site size, all of this stuff that you would get from your county data and then hand type or pay somebody to hand type that information in. Not to mention all of the comps that you grab and your MC sheet and the stats that go at the top of page 2. Folks, can you imagine all of that stuff being entered to your report with a touch of a button? Well, you don't need to imagine. It's here. It's called DataMaster, and you need to check them out. Go to datamasterusa.com. Again, it's datamasterusa.com. And welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out with my good friend, Mr. Timothy Andersen. Tim, you are called the appraiser's advocate. Why?
Dustin, that's what I do now. I don't appraise anymore. So as a result, when somebody finds themselves on the wrong end of that letter from their state, or somebody wants not to find themselves on the wrong end of that letter from their state,
There you go.
they can get in touch with me at tim@theappraisersadvocate.com, and I will help them, which might include advice. It might include helping write up a report so that that part of it meets USPAP. Could include any number of things. I offer a number of services. And it's, again, I don't appraise anymore. So it's something I enjoy very much.
Awesome. And people can get a hold of you. Email address, please.
Tim@theappraisersadvocate.com.
It's pretty simple. Tim@theappraisersadvocate.com. All right, Tim, we're going to take another delve into some of the changing worlds that we're experiencing right now in the appraisal end of things, evaluation end of things. Concerning specifically the GSE, some movement that we've seen over the last few weeks as of this recording. And we see a lot of changes, I think, coming next year and maybe into the years to come. Tim, specifically, the GSEs and the FHFA have moved to allow more bifurcated hybrid appraisals. Specifically, the FHFA just passed a regulation that basically said, in no uncertain terms, that they'll accept desktops for mortgage transactions, including purchases. Where do you see this going with the appraisal world moving forward?
Justin, this is not something that is going to happen in the future. This is now. This is the present.
Right,
this is not the future. This is the present. Appraisers will have the opportunity to do bifurcated appraisals, desktop appraisals. They'll have the opportunity to work with contractors who are going to do a lot of the street work for them. Or they'll have the opportunity to say, lender, no, thank you. I absolutely refuse to put my name on an appraisal if I have not inspected the property and am convinced of its quality or lack of quality.
Right.
It's going to start, well, it has started, although it will not kick in until later this year, the first of next year. But within, from 6 months as we record, let's say by April of 2022, this is going to be the norm. And what that means from a standpoint of appraisers, what that means from a standpoint of USPAP is nothing, frankly. The appraiser will still need to comply totally with standard 1, which is the development standard, and will still need to comply totally with standard 2, which is the reporting standard. Now, some appraisers, and they probably said this to you, I know they've said it to me, that a bifurcated or a hybrid or even a desktop appraisal is not USPAP compliant. And that's, quite frankly, to some extent, that's true. But what happens is there is no appraisal form out there, the 1004 form, 2055, et cetera, that is USPAP compliant. The appraiser makes the form USPAP compliant, not the form itself.
Right.
So to say a desktop appraisal is not USPAP compliant, if you mean the reporting form, that's true. It's not. The appraiser makes the form USPAP compliant. Part of the problem is there is no such thing as a desktop appraisal. There is merely an appraisal done from your desktop.
Sure.
And the only difference is you don't put boots in the living room. It's not much different from a drive-by. Now, you will be depending on the work of a contractor, and you will have to decide whether to accept that work or not. Now, appraisers have said, well, what training are these contractors going to get? Well, either the benefit or the problem is, who cares? Because let's face it, the lender is not going to take a great deal of risk by sending out an incompetent contractor to inspect and photograph the property. The individual lender, Elm Street Bank has responsibility to the GSE. And if the GSE finds that that particular lender did not comply with its requirements, then that lender has to buy the loan back. So as a result, the fact that a contractor went out to inspect, photograph, measure, blah, 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 really is not going to affect the appraiser all that much, because the appraiser is either going to accept the contractor's work or reject the contractor's work. And then chances are, anyway, Dustin, that if the contractor goes out and says, hey, everything's fine, But we didn't see any problems. The lender is going to stop the process there and make the loan based on that, especially if it has a relatively low loan to value ratio.
Right.
For properties that have higher loan to value ratios, which is typical of what's going on now, then the appraiser is going to take the contractor's data and based on that form a value opinion. Now, is USPAP going to have to update itself somewhat? Yeah, most likely it is. And the ASB is obviously very well aware of the situation. The lenders are willing to take this step because they found in the last year that appraisers not putting boots in the living room has not significantly changed the amount of mortgages that are going into default. Typically, it's less than 1%. So if that's not changing, why does the lender have to demand boots in the living room?
And that really is the slow part too, right? But not to interrupt you, Tim.
I'm sorry, say again.
I said that's really the slow part. And when I say the slow part, the concern, in my opinion, the concern of the lender and the GSEs in turn is the speed at which appraisals are getting done. I recently heard that as of this recording, as at least a week ago, the average turn time for an appraisal nationwide, and I think every area differs a bit, but nationwide, the average turn time for an appraisal is 17 days. And the average turn time for a mortgage, all the other parts of a mortgage, is 2 days, meaning it takes you 2 days from application to delivery of mortgage if it weren't for the appraisal. So I think part of this, obviously, Tim, is to speed the process, right?
Oh, yeah. The appraisal process is too slow. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about that. We still do way too much by hand. We still do way too much by rule of thumb. We still do way too much by guessing. But see, the bad thing is, you and your wife walk in to borrow money to buy a house. The lender knows what that house is worth before you walk out the door.
Right, yeah.
So the technology exists for immediate data to come in. What happens is the appraisal is not merely an indication of value. It is that, obviously, but the appraisal is an analysis of the risks of making that loan.
Right.
That's what the GSEs want to know. They already know what the property's worth, but they want to understand the risks of the neighborhood. They want to know neighborhood trends. That's why it's our job to understand stuff like that. The GSEs don't care about a value. They care about risk.
And those of you who don't know, if you're new to the program and you don't know Tim's sense of humor, you know that he speaks from the place of thinking. Is the best I can put that. In other words, I think that there's an argument, and what I'm trying to stay off, Tim, is those that are going to write in and say, "What in the world did Tim Andersen say? They already know the value and they don't need appraiser." That's not what Tim is saying at all. What he's saying is he's speaking from the GSE's standpoint, and he's speaking from the standpoint of those that underwrite these loans, of really what they're getting at when it comes to an appraisal. I think every appraiser needs to be aware of this. If you think all day long that you are the sole knowledge keeper, the gatekeeper of the value of that home, you're kidding yourself, right? There's data galore out there that, let's be honest with you, gets you pretty far. It may not be exact, it may not be spot on, and an appraisal obviously is going to give you better data, but that information is widely available out there. And really, I think appraisers need to understand that their purpose, and even if we don't see it ourselves, we need to understand that our purpose is risk assessment for the GSEs. That's really what they're looking at, right, Tim?
Yeah, they want an analysis of the risk of investing in a mortgage in that neighborhood.
Right.
And the thing is, we tell them what the risk is up to the effective date of the appraisal. Then through their internal processes, they have to figure out what the risk of investing in that appraisal is from that day forward for up to the next 30 years. So what we do plays a relatively small role in the mortgage granting process.
Right. Well, and I think it's important for appraisers, if you're listening, appraisers, this is a topic that I've actually spent quite a bit of time on with my mastermind groups over the last several months. When I travel to these cities and we sit in the same conference room together, over the last couple of months, I've been spending several minutes, probably up to 30 to 40 minutes with each of these groups talking about this very thing, and some of the changes that we are seeing, some of the changes that we will be seeing. I believe, just to put it very, very plainly, I mean, there's a lot more that would go into this, but just to speak plainly, just for brevity's sake, one of the biggest changes that Tim is talking about today is that it's going to become less and less important for appraisers to be in these properties, to be the quote unquote inspector on the ground. And I know that upsets a lot of listeners, that they feel like that's where their job security is. But folks, I'm telling you, that's not your job security. If that's your job security, you're going to lose your job very quickly. Your job security may be and needs to be in the realm of understanding and being the expert in your local market. That's what needs to happen. And if you're not making that change already in your business, it will be forced upon you if you don't take the change seriously yourself. Am I off in left field, Tim?
No, you're right. Standing on the pitcher's mound.
Man, I've never been there. I was always in left field when I was playing Little League. So I'm comfortable there. All right, Mr. Andersen. Thank you.
Dustin, yeah, certainly, Dustin, it's my pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Well, it's always a pleasure being on with an expert who really, truly understands. And I love the fact, Tim, if I can just speak plainly for a second, I love the fact, honestly, that you're not an active appraiser anymore. And because I think we get a perspective from somebody who sees it from the other side of the fence that is very, very valuable. So, I love these episodes because your wisdom is great, number one, but your willingness to be able to say what needs to be said is even greater. Thank you.
Dustin, it's an honor to serve my fellow appraisers in that position. Thank you.
And again, folks, if you want to get a hold and need to get a hold of Tim, I would recommend that you reach out to him. Don't wait until that state board letter comes. Reach out to him beforehand. He will help you to avoid that letter by beefing up your appraisal work. Again, Tim at theappraisersadvocate.com. Rather, it's Tim at theappraisersadvocate.com. Thank you, Tim, for joining us. My best to you and yours, and we will catch you again soon, my friend.
Dustin, thank you. My best to you, your family, and all the listeners. It's always an honor to be with you, Dustin. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
There will be a box that the complainant will have the opportunity. Dustin, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Editor, I apologize.
Take your time.